This happens, and I know you talk about this, throughout the summertime is when we had that ground stop earlier at Charlotte Douglas, but I don't know if you saw this. One of our reporters was apparently already at the airport. I don't know if they were trying to fly out or whatnot, but got some interesting lightning strikes, and I'm hoping that we get it again. Hopefully this video will loop, but we had that ground stop at Charlotte Douglas, I want to say between like 3:30 and 4:15. So that seemingly impacted some flights. I know we had a few hundred delays, and there were just a handful of cancellations, but probably just a good time to remind folks to make sure that you're checking your flight status, just given all of the weather that we've seen on the day.
Yeah, I heard when the wind came through there, it was quite the little dust storm because it came ahead of the rain, and all the construction going out there was pretty violent on the tarmac. And then we had the ground stop because it was so windy and the lightning. We were just talking about the other day in the weather office. I think in the summertime, summer storms are the biggest detriment to air travel there is, because and people probably aren't enough to remember this, but pre-Doppler radar, which didn't come out until the late 80s and early 90s, planes used to crash all the time because they would fly in and near thunderstorms. It was back then they called it wind shear, but they were downburst. And even in Charlotte, unfortunately, we had a crash because of a downburst at the airport. And so the advent of Doppler radar allowed us to detect these downbursts easier, and they put wind shear detectors on airports. And because of all that education of what downbursts were and how to detect them, now airports don't take any chances with thunderstorms. They don't want, pilots will not fly anywhere near a thunderstorm. So when there's one over an airport, they're going to stop all inbound and outbound flights. And then on top of that, we've talked about this, the lightning means all the ground crews have to seek shelter. So if you think about the ground crews, you probably looked out the window and seen the baggage handlers, the folks that are fueling the plane, the folks that are putting the service items in the plane. Imagine being on a tarmac wide open in a lightning storm next to a giant metal plane with fueling. So those people aren't going to be out there. So the ground crews got to seek shelter until the lightning gets away. So that combination of being safe from flying around storms and also the ground crews not being out in the lightning means there's massive delays when there's a thunderstorm over an airport. And if it's a hub airport like Charlotte, Atlanta, DFW, up in the DC area, New York, boy, that trickle down effect then impacts everybody. That's why the little trick, and you've heard this from travel experts, in the summer, book morning flights.
Oh, yeah.
When there is not thunderstorms. Afternoon thunderstorms and evening, you're playing with fire with your flights if you book those afternoon and evening flights.
Yeah, and I pulled up the FlightAware map around CLT as we speak. It looks like there's some activity going, so I guess
they're trying to see how they're flying around.
They're flying around.
Yeah,
that pocket of red. So is that heavy rain? Is that where we're seeing the red on the radar?
So probably what we're going to see, they're trying to sneak out going northbound, but I would imagine they'll stop flying out of the northbound area. They'll fly in from the south because they can get around it. But I bet takeoffs going north will probably cease here in a while. So you've got two parallel runways, soon to be three, by the way, which will be really interesting. You'll have a middle, a left, and a right runway, and they actually had to renumber them because there's a new runway. But those two runways, for a while, they'll both fly in the same direction. They'll go north for a while. They'll flip the runways around. Right now, with that storm north of the airport, I bet everyone's going to be coming in from the south, and they might stop outbound flights for a while.
Well, and just a heads up for folks, FlightAware is reporting the average delay right now is around 55 minutes.
That's
it could be worse.
Better than I expected.
It could be worse, but still, no one likes to be delayed, I know.
That's not too bad, to be honest. I would have said it was like 2 hours.
Yeah.